Hi, Simon. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for taking the time today. Just as a brief introduction for our listeners, Simon Whistler is a writer, producer, and voice actor, and he also hosts a podcast called Rocking Self Publishing, which is one of my favorite podcasts about writing and indie publishing. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the kind words.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about the creative writing process with Scrivener, but let's start at the beginning with a little bit of background. How long have you been writing?
I guess I started my first book about a year ago. In fact, kind of strangely, I started the podcast before I actually started writing. I was, as you mentioned, a voiceover artist and narrator.
Mhm.
Before that, I started writing a year ago with my first book, Audiobooks for Indies, which was the process about kind of getting an audiobook made as an indie author. Title's pretty self-explanatory. Working with Scrivener, which is, I know, one of the reasons we're on the phone today. Recently, in fact, just 2 hours ago, sent out the advanced reader copies of my second book, which is Bootstrapping for Indies, a book about kind of self-publishing on a budget, especially for people who are looking to put out the first book. So that's a bit of my writing background.
Cool. So did you discover Scrivener before you really started writing professionally?
I think it was brought up, yeah, definitely before I started writing, but not before I started podcasting. It was brought up in a couple of interviews, and I think someone from Scrivener emailed me, or emailed them, and then they said, "Can we give away some copies to your?" I think I said, "Can I give away some copies of Scrivener? Could you provide some? And I'll give you mention in the show." I think it'll be a win-win.
That's
Um,
awesome.
I got a copy of. I think I was on the trial, then I got hooked on it, and then bought the piece of software, and then later bought it again when I switched to Mac.
Oh, nice.
I'm a good Scrivener customer.
So that's really interesting. What was the experience like for you the first time you pulled up Scrivener?
Honestly, pretty confusing. I was a Google Drive, Google Docs, whatever they're calling it these days,
Mm-hmm.
person. I had like 20,000 words tapped out in there, which was simple to do, but became confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And basically just couldn't manage that, just kind of having to search through to find things. And I'd been told, Scrivener does the organization of things on through those files and folders you get on the left-hand side. I'm sure you know what these are
Yeah.
called.
Yeah.
And yeah, just so basically I grabbed everything from the doc file, dropped it into Scrivener. I think that was when I was running the trial, or no, it was probably I got the full software by then, and then kind of just shuffled everything into place and kind of
Mm-hmm.
grew it.
Yeah. So you said that the biggest challenge that you had when you were using Google Docs was the structural organization of it.
Yeah, everything just became a massive mess. It was
Yeah.
kind of, I think, also not just the fault of the software, but I didn't plan my first book properly. I was kind of just,
Sure.
these are my thoughts,
Who
here's my
does?
brain dump, there's a book, which isn't quite how it works. Next one was much more planned, and I think that was a big thing. But also, when you've got 20 to 30,000 words in one document, I mean, just to find, especially with nonfiction where you need to go through and find something, you have an idea, like, I need to add this to this bit.
Mhm.
You're kind of like pressing Command F or Control F, and you're like searching it for relevant
Ah,
keywords that might be in there. And then it's
right.
like, what did I type in this part again? What did I title this bit? Because you don't
Hmm.
want to scroll through
And so then you've got like 20 tabs open in the browser, and you're like, I have no
right,
idea where
where
anything
am I?
is. Yeah, that's tough. So you said it was a little bit confusing looking at Scrivener initially. How did you get over that? Did you read tutorials? Did you just kind of mess with it?
I think they have that when you log in. There's the see. I was on the Windows version originally. I'm not sure if I assume they have this in Mac as well.
Yeah,
But
it's like a walkthrough tutorial template.
yeah, I got about like 5 minutes into that, and then I was kind of like, typical man. Let's throw away the instruction manual and just get started.
I
Which
got this. Where's the hammer?
right, and from the looks of my IKEA furniture, it's probably not the best strategy.
Sure.
Like I have been known to assemble a cupboard inside out where the hinges were on the outside. Um, so not naturally gifted at this stuff. So I kind of dived back into that and basically went to YouTube, searched when I needed to know something, and Google to find relevant tutorials.
Hmm. Okay, awesome. So what is your writing process like now using Scrivener?
Totally different.
Okay.
Worlds away from the let's get everything down. In fact, I do the let's get everything down, and that does happen still in Google Docs,
Hmm.
where it's kind of like let's just dump everything, just do a massive brain dump.
Mm.
But then it's like then I make a structure, and then things from the brain dump kind of get sorted out and put into my structure. So the structure starts off with I open Scrivener because I'll never remember all the names of the different things.
Yeah.
So on the left-hand side, you have Binder.
Yep.
Tells me that right now. And then you got the folders. So I'll kind of come up with the different chapters I want. Those make up my folders. Then inside that, I'll kind of press the Control N and create those little, doesn't tell me what those are called, but the little individual
They're like text files.
Text files, thank you.
Sure.
And basically then I give those titles of what I want to cover, kind of looking at the brain dump and kind of taking that and organizing it. Then I go through and I use the synopsis bit, probably improperly, to kind of put some notes on what I want to cover. And then if I want to, if I have thoughts while doing that aren't kind of just related to pure what I want to cover, those go in the yellow box underneath the document notes.
Right.
And basically when the writing process actually happens, then I finally go into the big white main text edit bit in the center, and I go through and then I do a very fast, let's go through and expand on each of these points very quickly. Let's just get the words down. And then those get crafted into the final book eventually.
It sounds like you're using a structural approach that some people call the Snowflake method. Have you ever heard that before?
I know. What's the name? Randy Ingemason's book.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Is the Snowflake method?
It might be. It's basically that you have one large topic for the book, and then you break it down into smaller topics, and you break those down into smaller topics, and then you outline those sections. It's just like starting with one big thing and then breaking it down.
I didn't know that's what the Snowflake method was, but no, that's a good analogy.
Okay, and when you import stuff from Google Docs to Scrivener, it's just a manual process? Like you're like, okay, here's my brain dump, I'm just going to redo it here.
In fact, I don't even copy and paste, it's just the brain dump is such a mess that I and so much of it is just crap, and it's like, why am I writing this? What's going on?
Yeah.
And then be like, what was I thinking? Was I drunk? Maybe. It's probably just bad ideas. And then no copying and pasting, just that becomes the structure, that becomes the notes.
Interesting. And since you write nonfiction, you probably do a lot of research. Do you do research ahead of time in the brain dump phase, or is it kind of like as you're writing?
Brain dump initially is no research. It's just kind of my completely unjustified gut feelings. And then I will kind of go through that brain dump again and kind of add in a bunch of links, add in a few things I want to read later. And then those, some of those links will make it as references into the final thing when I use it. But the first round is mostly just lots of things I want to cover, lots of ideas I have. And because I've done this podcast, I've done like 90 interviews or something, I kind of have this just quite a lot of thoughts to tap into about different things. And then I'll go through and find out, so maybe this person told me about this, and I'll find their blog post about it and kind of...
Okay.
Because immediately it comes to mind, and I'm like, I have no idea who said that, but someone definitely said that.
Right. So it's like you've already done the research ahead of time. Because
I have a pretty good knowledge of what's going on with a lot of the stuff. So, but I obviously need to back it up. I can't just say, I think this, so you should do this.
Right.
I could, but it's just like, no one takes that seriously.
Sure. Cool. Okay, so tell me about the actual drafting. Do you use any specific functionality or features in Scrivener to help you be productive during that process?
I have to say I'm probably a pretty basic Scrivener user. I know there are these extra features. I like... Stuff goes in the trash, which I never remove. But that's...
It's nice to have...
Sorry to disappoint.
Yeah, no, that's good though. A lot of the times, like in Microsoft Word, there's no version history, there's no trash. So if you delete something, like it's gone.
It's gone, yeah, which sucks. I love
Yeah.
And I'm known to delete stuff and then just be like, I actually want that whole section back in.
Yeah.
And I just will drag it back into place.
Sure. I guess Google Docs is nice for that too, because they have that revision history, right? So like you can actually just delete it from the doc and then go back in time.
Did not know they had that. Now I do. That's cool.
It's mind-blowing. So I've used Google Docs for some time. We use it at work. And like if we're drafting blog posts or whatever, we'll do them collaboratively in Google Docs. And it's great because if you go to the file menu and then revision history, you can actually see how it progressed and compare the versions. It's pretty cool. I think that's one thing that Scrivener doesn't do as well, because Scrivener you have to manually go in and take snapshots, right? If you want to do that. Google Docs basically takes them automatically at each autosave.
I didn't know about Snap. I'm learning things. I
Yeah.
just do the file save as, and then I give it its name. Then I put my initials and a date to say kind of if my editor did it, then I would
Right.
want them to change it to their initials and put the
Mm-hmm.
date and
Mm-hmm.
just to track things. But obviously, there's a better way of doing that apparently.
Do you use the goal tracking or split
No.
screen mode?
Oh, sorry. No, I do use. Yeah, I do use the. Is it split screen mode where you have the
Yeah.
two pages open at the same thing?
Yep.
Yep, totally use that.
Okay.
Wow, there's so many things that you don't think about, but yeah, I
Right.
totally use that. And I use the statistics where it turns green.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like typing away and it's like, I want to do like 2,000 words or whatever.
Yep.
And then gradually it's turning green. Yeah, I use that.
So
Okay, now I'm
what?
thinking about it. There's definitely going to be other things I'm using.
Sure, sure. I'll walk you through them. So,
Cool.
what is your daily goal count, or what's your normal goal count? Is it based on the deadline, or is it just based on your normal output?
Deadlines. Because I do writing is just a part of what I do, so I don't really have
Totally.
a daily goal in terms of word counts. I am a big fan of hard deadlines. So today I had the hard deadline was to kind of finish the, I said the first time I go to the center white bit and
Yeah.
the white bits,
The
the
text
text entry field,
editor.
and I go through and I put the, my taking the notes and making them into something that's going to turn into the book, which I'll then kind of polish and expand. So basically, my hard deadline for today was have that done,
Mhm.
and I had done about 50% of the book, which is probably going to be 20,000 words. So I had about 7 or 8,000 words to do. Knock them out in the morning.
Nice.
They don't have to be good at this point. They just have to be something that can be crafted into something good.
Mhm.
But yeah, so this was a very brutal day of writing. But then the last 3 days, I've done nothing. So
Interesting.
not nothing, just no writing.
Yeah, I think that's good. You have to give yourself deadlines to keep yourself accountable.
Yes.
What about have you ever used the full screen mode?
No, I quite like shrinking it down so it looks like a book.
I see. Yeah.
So when it opens it, the the white bit, the text entry field is massive,
Yeah.
and I shrink that down so it's kind of like, it looks like my Kindle
Right.
size.
So you
'Cause
open
then
the binder and then you open the inspector on the other
yeah,
side,
the
and then
binder's nice and wide, the
yeah,
inspector's nice and wide, and
yeah.
then I feel like I'm really entering, like I'm writing a book rather than a blog post or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Do
It's more
you?
satisfying that way.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, I always like having the binder open because I kind of jump around and write out of order. Um,
Yeah, same.
okay, so I mean that's an interesting concept. Christine Catherine Rush says that every writer writes out of order, even if they won't admit it. Right? Like they'll start at the beginning, and then the beginning will eventually become chapter 2 or chapter 3. Do you find that
Yeah.
you do that as well?
Sorry, I'm all over the place. When the binder's open, I'll be like, this doesn't belong in this section. And then
Right.
I'll jump back to 5,000 words earlier, chapter whatever. And then I'll remain in that chapter writing for the next hour. And I'll be like, wait, wasn't I writing about something completely different when I started today? This is probably not great advice for writers. I don't know if it's a particularly efficient way to write, but I'm all over the place.
Yeah. Well, I think Scrivener is good because it gives people the option to write out of order. Where something like Google Docs or Microsoft Word, you have one page and you have no choice but to write linearly.
I was
And
telling you, like the struggle of finding places to go in Drive,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're searching for those keywords, and you just, fine, I'll just write it here.
yeah, 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 and then good luck like restructuring
fix
it
this
later.
later, right.
Oh man, I can't even imagine doing that after using Scrivener. But do you use the custom labels or status labels or
No.
color coding anything? Okay.
Sadly not.
So what's your Scrivener process like when it comes to self-editing? I'm just assuming here that you hire an editor and that you're going to do one draft and then probably read it yourself and self-edit at least once.
Yeah, I don't really know how I'd break down I don't think it's that linear for me. I'll definitely do the kind of very rough ideas draft, kind of taking those notes in the synopsis and document notes section and writing that. Then I would still say the next thing I do is still a draft. The next thing after that is still a draft. And then maybe I start editing. First edit is just kind of getting everything in the right order. I don't worry about typos, don't worry about grammar. I'm not particularly good at grammar, so I do rely on an editor to help me with that stuff later. And then I use the text-to-speech function which I think is built into Scrivener.
Hmm.
Also, I use a program called Natural Reader as well, so I can play it back and edit it in Scrivener at the same time.
Tell me more about this. So you use the text-to-speech, which comes with Scrivener. I think, any of this accessibility stuff is part of most computers nowadays. You can just get your computer to read off the text.
Yeah.
But what is Natural Reader?
I don't know if this is an issue with. Actually, I don't even know if this is an issue with Scrivener. My memory fails me. I was using Natural Reader, which is just a text-to-speech program, but separate from Scrivener. Because I remember having issues that it wouldn't read back and edit. I wouldn't be able to edit at the same time. Is that a problem in Scrivener?
No, I can have it read back while I'm making changes, but
Okay.
like if you make changes ahead of where the voice is, it'll read the old thing, I think.
Okay, I think then I was just relying. This wasn't an issue with Scrivener. This is maybe even pre that. So
Yeah.
now it would just be I'd use. This doesn't seem to fit in.
It might be different on Windows though, so I'm using Mac, right? So like if you were using the Windows version of the text-to-speech functionality, it might be different.
Maybe that. I'm honestly not sure. But yeah, text-to-speech I love because it points out, oh, that is a to rather than an of, when I would just be completely blind to it.
Right. Interesting. So Natural Reader, does it give you like a more natural voice?
Yeah, but you have to pay for that, and I didn't pay for it, so I just have Microsoft Sam or whoever it is these days.
Awesome.
But no, I think this time I haven't explored it. I don't know why I haven't explored it, because it's obviously built into Scrivener. I got to get on that.
Yeah. Well, I really love this idea of using text-to-speech to self-edit and to to play the words back for you, because you've read them so many times that you're just blind to the grammar mistakes and blind to maybe typos or like word choices. And actually hearing them, it tweaks a different part of your brain, and it allows you to say, oh, wow, that doesn't sound right, even though I've read that sentence 6 times. And do you find, like, as a voice actor, that this is part of your process?
I find as a voice actor that I will still... I miss things. Mm-hmm. And, even when you're reading things aloud, you're reading like a sentence ahead, or whatever, because you don't want to have to do too many edits. And if you're kind of reading every word and being super careful when you're reading, you just miss things, and your brain kind of fills in, because it's like, we have to get this right. I don't know why, it's useful, but when you're proofing, it's completely harmful. So this ability to read books and stuff as a voice actor is not helpful at all when proofing.
Oh, really? So you're still blind to your own mistakes even when you're reading it out loud?
I'm blind to my mistakes. I'm blind to other people's mistakes. I mean, I'll read a book and it'll be like, I'll maybe spot one typo, like someone else's book.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, actually, we had like beta readers point out 20. And I'm like, oh, so...
So you use the text-to-speech, you use Natural Reader. Do you ever actually sit down and read your book out loud and record it and then play it back to you?
Haven't done mine yet. That's I kind of said I'd do it in the first 3 months of this year, but I'm well aware it's already March, so that's probably not going to happen.
Right.
But it's on the agenda.
Yeah, you mean in terms of...
Sorry?
Just in terms of like reading your book and turning it into an audiobook, you mean?
Yeah. And I know that'll be a proofing process in itself, but I'll probably spot like 1 or 2 of the 20 typos that are probably still in there. It's a good book, though.
Yeah, totally. Are there any other lessons from like podcast production or voice acting that have been able to help you in your writing process?
In terms of other than knowledge base, I think I've got from talking to so many people, I think just, the whole structure thing that I'm working on right now is thanks to Steve Scott's writing method. He wrote a book called Write a Non-Fiction Book in 21 Days that readers love, or some super long title that I'm sure gets lots of hits on Amazon.
Yeah.
But this process of doing the brain dump, doing the structure, doing the notes is largely his process, which has been amazing for the book I've just put out, the book I'm working on right now, compared to the first book. Just fantastic. That is a fantastic book.
Great.
Yeah. And just it works so well with Scrivener. Like that whole process of just using the binder to structure, using the note cards, or whatever they call them, the synopsis cards to put the ideas onto, just makes it so easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you use Scrivener for anything else, like for your blog or for researching or planning your podcasts?
No, I have to say I'm more of an Evernote person,
Oh, interesting.
just because it syncs with the phone. So
Mm-hmm.
often I'll be out and about, and I just I love Scrivener for writing, but note taking, and I mean I draft emails in Evernote, and
Mm-hmm.
because then I have the dual screens, and then you want to have the email open on one, and then you have the Evernote open on another, and
Mm-hmm.
then it all syncs up with your phone and the iPad and all of this stuff. So it's just super easy.
Yeah, totally. And I think that, Scrivener is definitely falls short in that regard because you can't
I'd
use it
love
on
it
the
to have,
go.
right, I'd love it to have some sync cloud mobile functionality. That would be awesome.
Yeah, from what I hear, they're working on an iPad app, but I am not privy to when that is going to be
It's
released.
just, it just seems like the next step to me.
Yeah,
It seems like I mean, I'm sure the development costs are massive, but it
right.
seems like a smart move.
Cool. Well, I know we're a little short on time today, so let's transition a little bit now and talk. Let's do a little bit of speculation. So, just about the future in terms of technology. I mean, we were just talking about how Scrivener's obvious next move is to move to an iPad app. Where do you see the future of creative writing tools headed? I mean, based on your knowledge and how many interviews you've done with authors, are there any other things you foresee in the near future for in terms of like creative writing tools, in terms of tools that would help authors be better at their jobs?
I think over time, there's a general removal of the number of devices we have. I think maybe the tablet bucked that trend, but I don't wear a watch anymore. I don't have an MP3 player. Everything comes together in the phone. I
Mm-hmm.
still read my Kindle because I love that e-ink display, but increasingly I find myself when it runs out of battery that I'll leave it for 2 weeks and just read off my phone every night.
Yeah.
So I like the separate devices, but I can definitely see it coming together to be one. And I can kind of see that happening on the other side of the equation as well. Right now, I don't want to type on an iPad because the keyboard isn't up to it. But the technology, I don't know how, but it'll solve that issue and we'll reduce our devices. And Scrivener will put out an iPad app, hopefully, and
Right.
probably a reduction in the number of things we have into one more multi-purpose device, whatever that might be.
Mm-hmm. And maybe even if you have two different devices, just something that syncs across them that makes it seamless, so that you
Yeah,
could
kind of
like.
when that doesn't happen right now, though, I don't see that as a future thing. I'm like disappointed that's not in the present.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's true. It's 2015 after all. Come on.
I'm like, why can't I open a Scrivener file in Dropbox? I know
Right.
the technologies are
Right.
completely incompatible. I know nothing about programming, but I'm like, why can't I why can't Dropbox, why can't I proof my little chapters when I'm sitting on the bus or whatever?
Yeah, that's a really good point because Dropbox can read PDF files. It can read
Yeah.
like .doc files for Microsoft Word. It can read Excel files, like everything. But Scrivener's unique file format is just totally incompatible with Dropbox's viewing function.
Yeah. I
That's a
think, I
shame.
mean, as popular a software as Scrivener is, it's not as popular as PDF.
Right.
So
Yeah. That.
Dropbox build the compatibility that they really need.
Yeah. Totally. All right. Cool. Well, we can end it here. I know you've got to go. Just one last question. I know you said that you were working on that bootstrapping publishing book.
Yep.
Are there any other projects you want to share with us?
Sure. Bootstrap Publishing is coming out next. Well, this won't be relevant, but when this comes out, I guess it'll be out.
Yeah.
And then the current one I'm working on is a title called. This is all in the For Indies series. So I had audiobooks for indies. I have bootstrapping for indies. The next one's productivity for indies.
Oh,
So
nice.
basically, like I said, done a lot of interviews, heard a lot of things. I reached out to my audience and said, "Tell me what makes you most productive." And I've kind of right now it's in the working in the white area stage.
So there's definitely going to be a Scrivener section of that book, right?
There's a software section, and within that software section there is a dedicated. You know how many people come in who I reached out to? I kind of sent the email out to my email list and was like, "What are your productivity hacks?" Scrivener gets an unfair number of mentions
Yeah.
compared to other bits and pieces.
Yeah, and that's funny to me because there are no competitors for Scrivener that I can find right now. I mean, there's one. I found this thing online called Noveler, Novelr, which is like an online novel writing tool. But even that compared to Scrivener, like that's the closest thing. But it's still like a far cry from what Scrivener offers right now.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it. Honestly, I wouldn't look for anything else.
Right. Yeah.
If someone said, "This is amazing, it'll blow your mind," it's like the best thing ever, I'd be like, "Okay, I'll try it," but no one does.
Cool. And finally, where can people find you and your work online?
Just go to my podcast homepage, comes out every Thursday, interviews with successful authors, rockingselfpublishing.com, or just look that up in iTunes.
All right, great. Thanks, Simon.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
All right, bye for now.
All right, bye.